Hello, my name is Irene Shao, and I am the Homeless System Training Coordinator for King County Regional Homelessness Authority. This video is for homeless service providers who are working with clients. It will explain the required documentation needed for a client who is fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, which falls under Category 4 of the homeless definition. First, we will start with the definition of fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence. Any individual or family, including a child, who 1. is fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, and other dangerous or life-threatening conditions related to violence. 2. has no other residence, and 3. lacks the resources or support networks to obtain other permanent housing. For victim service providers, which means providers with domestic violence programs, documentation includes an oral statement by the individual or head of household seeking, which states they are fleeing, they have no subsequent residence, and they lack resources to obtain permanent housing. The statement must be documented by a self-certification or the intake worker. As for documentation for non-service providers, an oral statement by the individual or head of household seeking assistance they are fleeing is used. This statement is documented by a self-certification or by the client talking to a caseworker. When the safety of the individual or family is not jeopardized, the oral statement must be verified, or other forms of certifications can be used. For example, a written referral by a housing or service provider, social worker, legal assistance provider, healthcare provider, law enforcement agency, legal assistance provider, pastoral counselor, or any other organization from whom the individual or head of household has sought assistance for domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking. The written referral or observation need only include the minimum amount of information necessary to document that the individual or family is fleeing or attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking. And certification by the individual or head of household that no subsequent residence has been identified, and self-certification or other written documentation that the individual or family lacks the financial resources, support networks to obtain other permanent housing. For more information about self-certification, please refer to the chronic homelessness video. In general, providers tend to make less mistakes with domestic violence-related documentation, and most domestic violence agencies have a pre-made form that the client fills out at intake. One mistake that happens is providers not obtaining the self-certification at intake to demonstrate the eligibility at the time of enrollment, similar to literal homelessness. Also, another mistake is that the client has to self-certify, not the intake worker. In other words, the client needs to be the key signature that is attesting to experiencing domestic violence, not the intake worker on behalf of the client. And here are the sources that were used to produce this video recording. Thank you.